This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
The Gemara in Megillah on Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Beis tells us that there's a halachic distinction between the Tochacha in Bechukaisai in Mishna in Toras Kayanim and the Tochacha in this week's Parsha Mishna Torah. And the Gemara says the halachic distinction is that one may not interrupt and stop in the Tochacha in Bechukaisai in Toras Kayanim, while one may interrupt in the Tochacha in Mishna Torah. The reason being, says the Gemara from Abaye, that the Tochacha in Toras Kayanim is said b'Lashon Rabim. V'hanisharim bachem va'avartem v'hanisharim bachem v'hisva'adu es avoinam afani elech imam bekeri. So since it was said b'Lashon Rabim, you may not interrupt. However, the Tochacha in this week's Parsha was said b'Lashon Yachid, and Yad Beik Hashem B'cha, Yishalach Hashem B'cha, Vayushamecha, Yitein Hashem Es Matar Artzecha. So since it was said Lashon Yachid, one is allowed to interrupt. This is what the Gemara says in Megillah Lamed Aleph Amud Beis. Based on this Gemara, the Vilna Gaon explains a phenomenon that we find after the Tochacha in this week's Parsha, which we don't find after the Tochacha in Toras Kayanim. And that is in Parshas Nitzavim, Perek Chav Tes, Pasuk Yud Ches, we have a gentleman who says, "V'haya b'shamayis divrei ha'alazos." He hears the words of this curse. V'hisbarech bo v'avoy leimar. He will bless in his heart, saying, "Shalom yali," all will be well. Ki b'shvirus libi elech. I will walk according to the whims of my heart. I'm not afraid. And the punishment is v'hivdilai Hashem l'ra'ah. God will separate him for evil. Mikol shiftei Yisrael. Why do we have this character only in the aftermath of the Tochacha of Mishna Torah? We don't have anyone after the Tochacha Bechukaisai saying to themselves, "Well, I'm not afraid of the Tochacha." So the Vilna Gaon explains very simply. The Tochacha in Bechukaisai was said b'Lashon Rabim. Lashon Rabim, the Gra learns, not like the Orach Chaim HaKadosh. The Orach Chaim HaKadosh actually in Parak Chav Ches Pasuk Mem Zayin learns the exact opposite. However, the Vilna Gaon learns if it's said b'Lashon Rabim, then it's said to every individual, each and every individual. So if it's said to each and every individual, nobody could wiggle out and say, "Well, he didn't mean me. It doesn't apply to me. I'm not included." However, the Tochacha in this week's Parsha, Savo, was said b'Lashon Yachid. Lashon Yachid means Klal Yisrael is one entity. If it's said to Klal Yisrael as one entity, so a person might say, "Well, these clothes are only to the Klal, to the community, to the tzibur, but I'm a man unto myself, I'm not worried about that. It's only said to Klal Yisrael in general, but it doesn't mean me." So basically what the person is doing is he's being moitzi atzmai min haklal, and therefore midah k'neged midah, his punishment is v'hivdilai Hashem l'ra'ah. Interestingly, Rabbi Yehoshua Heller in this week's Parsha, Rabbi Yehoshua Heller uses this idea of the Gaon, that the Tochacha in Parshas Savo being said b'Lashon Yachid refers to the tzibur as opposed to the Tochacha in Bechukaisai, which was said to every individual, and he explains the reason for that. And that is, in Parshas Bechukaisai, they had not yet accepted arvos. They were not yet responsible for the sins of others. Therefore, every man was to himself. Each individual was only responsible for their personal deeds. Ma'ashe'en kein, in this week's Parsha, where Klal Yisrael already accepted upon themselves arvos and responsibility for another yid, well, in that case, they are not only responsible for themselves, they are responsible for the Klal Kulai, and therefore the Tochacha in this week's Parsha was said to the entire tzibur. Wishing everyone a wonderful Shabbos.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.